Not to be overly technique-oriented, but I'm curious if there's any little tricks you found that help, like relaxing your gaze in a certain kind of way, what they might call in Aikido soft eyes, or breathing with a special emphasis on the exhalation, or anything like that.
I mean, sure, there's lots of tricks that I play with things. When I'm running through the park, I like to look at the trees and observe the trees disappear into the trees and look beyond the branches into the space surrounding the trees, and find that it's very easy to start to see the auric fields around the trees just by looking beyond them slightly, just like I could see, the subtle field beyond your body by just looking a little bit beyond it. When you start to just allow yourself to become aware of it, it comes up more strongly, some of these subtle perceptions. One of the great little practices that the Tibetan teacher gave me was the Vajra breathing, where when you take an inhalation, you see a white light in your skull, in the sort of upper forehead area, and imagine the seed syllable Om. So you breathe in, feel the white light filling your skull, think Om. You hold the breath slightly and think of the syllable Ah. That's in your throat, that's held in your throat, and that's a red energy. Om. And then hold it, Ah, and then release the breath, and there's a blue energy in your chest, and that's Hum. The seed syllable of all the Buddhas is Om, Ah, and Hum. And you can breathe them through your body with this practice of Vajra breathing. So it's Om, Ah, Hum, Om, Ah, Hum. And it's unveiling your own Buddha essence, your own Buddha nature, by the use of these mantra and color. Easy visualization. But for me, it starts to work, and I can do this as I walk down the street or sit at my desk or anything, and it starts to get the more spiritual senses flowing. I start to have little kriyas and jerks, and my face starts to grimace and things, just as the flow of the energies start to move through.
Taking a slightly different angle on deeply seeing, how would you recommend somebody deeply see a great work of art?
I think that's a great question, because the contemplation of great works of art should be just as important a practice as the creation of them. The entire field of deeply seeing could be called contemplation in one way or another. The practice of contemplation of great works of art, first of all, we need to find a piece that we trust significantly enough. We have to go to probably a museum or some setting that we know has a work that we're willing to spend time with and contemplate. You need to allow yourself time, just like in any meditation session. You need to give yourself at least 20 minutes to completely absorb a work, and that's cutting it short, really. Time can go very quickly in the contemplation of a great work. For me, what assists in deeply seeing a work of art is the drawing of that object. I don't think it's necessary for everybody to do, but when you do draw the object and enter into this meditative flow, you start to examine all of the aspects and details that the artist went through in the creation of it. Your examination of it becomes more detailed, and frequently, say, a half an hour into drawing a work of art, I'll begin to hear the artists themselves who made the work speaking to me.
You're having like an auditory hallucination.
An auditory hallucination, or perhaps...
a real communication.
Yeah,
okay.
a communion, soul to soul. That's basically what art is soul communion. And so, to me, they're like portals into a soul that become ways of transcending time. Their physical body may be dead and reduced to dust, these old artists, these masters, Rembrandt or Van Gogh or Michelangelo, but they live in their works. And by the contemplation of these works, just like the teachers of the various traditions, they're accessible. And just because they're dead doesn't mean that they can't speak to you. They're there to teach us in a certain way and inform us. I've gotten great drawing lessons from Van Gogh. It's basically very encouraging. You got to draw every day. Look for the rhythms of nature in the cosmos and in your daily life, in your city, and there are frequently little wisdom bites that you can carry away. I'm convinced anybody can have these experiences. One of the most bizarre experiences that I had when looking at a Van Gogh painting, it was called The Reaper. It's one of my favorite paintings of his. He writes about it himself. It's basically, for him, a picture of death, the Reaper. But it has the most sun-drenched chrome yellows throughout the entire thing. It's a very high-key, high-chroma painting. It was on exhibit at one of his great exhibitions at the Metropolitan Museum, and I noticed that people were standing in a very respectful, almost fearful distance from the painting. They were at least 10 feet away from this thing, and there was kind of a curve of people around it. You could see almost an emanation forcing them to stay a certain safe distance away from the thing. So I stepped inside of this zone to get a better look at his brush strokes. And as I came close to it, I started to hear this sound that went like... It was the most bizarre thing. It just like... It was like a force field. And I'd never heard anything like it. But I felt like this was a particularly powerful work, and it affected me on a very deep level. And I was completely mesmerized by the sort of force fields that he was able to transmit through his rhythmic brushstrokes. So the great works of art reveal new aspects of our own soul. When we contemplate these great works, the soul is confirmed as existing, that the inner worlds are exhibited in an outer form, and we can walk away confident from a great work of art that the soul is a stunning reality, and that it's been forever like a transcendental battery charged into particular works, and people can draw inspiration from them.